Hello there and welcome to today's lesson. We are going to be reviewing for your Mod 5 test. Okay, so this is all a review for Mod 5 test. So what we've been working on is writing equations, okay? And we've been writing equations in the form of y equals mx plus b. So y equals blank x plus blank. And we know that the slope always goes in the first blank. And we know that the y-intercept always goes in the second blank. Now, we've been writing equations from different ways. So one, if something's been graphed, we've been able to pull off the slope and the y-intercept. So if we have something graphed like this, we can pull off the y-intercept from that point, and then we count your slope up and over by making that unit box of counting rise over run, and we can fill it in. The second thing that we've been doing is writing things from a chart, so that if they tell us our x and our y's from our chart, and they usually put x's on top and y's on the bottom, then we can just write our equation from this. So y equals blank x plus blank, and sometimes they just tell you the y-intercept. So remember, if this number right here, if the x is a 0, then the y-intercept is 9. And then we have to find our slope by using two ordered pairs. Okay, and another way that we have been doing it is just writing the equation when they give you ordered pairs, and we have to find the slope. So that'd be the same thing as finding the slope here, and then plugging in using substitution and then solving to fill in the rest. So we're going to go through examples of all three of these right now. All right, so our first example here says write an equation of the line in slope-intercept form. So as soon as they tell me I'm going to write it in slope-intercept form, I like to write y equals blank x plus blank. Now, what goes in that first blank? Is it your slope or your y-intercept? Yep, slope goes in this first blank. So what do they tell us the slope is here? Is it 5? Is it -3? Or is it -6? All right, and we can go ahead and fill in our 5. Now, we need to solve and find our y-intercept. So remember, there are 4 steps we do. First, we substitute. Okay, we're going to substitute x and y in the equation. After we substitute, the second thing we're always going to do is multiply. The third thing we're going to do is either add or subtract. Sometimes it's add, sometimes it's subtract. It depends on whatever numbers by b and we need to move. And the fourth thing we're going to do is always finish the equation. Okay, sometimes we forget to finish the equation. All right, so we're going to substitute. So in here, they tell us that number's x and this number's y. So what number am I going to substitute in place of y? Is a -6. What number am I going to substitute in place of this x? I'm going to put in a -3. And then please make sure that you write your plus b at the end. All right, check. We just did the substituting. Now we need to multiply. So we're going to multiply 5 times -3, and we get a -15. Check. Okay, now we either need to add or subtract. So are we going to add 6 to both sides? Are we going to add 15 to both sides? Or are we going to subtract 6 or subtract 15? What do we do? And we're going to add 15 to both sides because we're trying to get the letter B all by itself. And this way, this cancels out and we're left with just B. So -6 plus 15 is going to be 9. So now we did our adding or subtracting, and now we have to finish our equation by writing 9 up in that last blank. So the y-intercept here is 9. All right, let's try another one. So this one, we're still writing an equation of a line. So we have y equals blank x plus blank. Okay, and remember you guys just told me that slope goes in this first blank. So they don't tell us the slope here, but do we have enough information to find the slope? Yep, we do, because we have two ordered pairs. So remember, is it change what goes on top? Is it x's or is it y's? So remember, it's change in y over change in x. So I'm going to circle my two y values. That's what goes on top. So I have -2 minus 2. And on the bottom, I'm going to have 3 minus 9. So make sure you guys use your calculators. So I have -4 over -6. And what does this simplify to? A negative divided by a negative is a positive. And if I divide by 2, I get 2 over 3. So my slope ends up being 2/3. Now I need to find my what? I need to find my y-intercept. So I can do that by plugging in one of these points. It doesn't matter which one I plug in. So I'm just going to use this first one. And remember, this is x, this is y. So in place of y, I'm going to put a -2. And in place of x, I'm going to put what number? X is 3. Okay, now grab your calculators and do your math. What is 2/3 times 3? So these 3's cancel out and we have 2. Okay, now are we going to add 2 or subtract 2 from both sides? So remember, we're focused on the number that's by the b, and because that's a +2, I'm going to subtract 2 from both sides. So I get -4 equals b. Now remember, the fourth thing to do is to go finish your equation. It's a -4. So on the test, they could be asking you, what is the y-intercept of this equation? So what is the y-intercept of this equation? Yep, it's a -4. All right. So we could also be asking you to write an equation. So this is the same thing we've been doing, but they're just giving you the information in a different way. So we still need to write y equals blank x plus blank. All right, so I caught a mistake I made, so I need to go back and fix that. So, all right, here we go. So we are going to be writing y equals blank x plus blank from this table. Y equals blank x plus blank. All right, so we are given the ordered pair, 3, 8, and the ordered pair. Whoops, that's not a 3. I just about made another mistake. That is a 2. 2, 8, and 3, 12, and 4, 16. Okay, so how many ordered pairs do I need to find slope? Yes, I only need 2. So I am just going to use these first 2. Okay, so remember, like we talked about before, y goes on top. So we have 12 minus 8, and on the bottom we have 3 minus 2. So 12 minus 8 is 4, and 3 minus 2 is 1. So what does this number 4 represent? Is it the slope or the y-intercept? Does it go in the first blank or second blank? Yep, it's the slope, and it goes in the first blank. Okay, now we need to find the y-intercept. So there's 2 ways we can do that. One way is we can pick this ordered pair and we can substitute just like we did in those last 2 problems. And in place of y, I'm putting an 8. In place of x, I'm putting a 2. And I'm going to solve for b. So don't forget to write your plus b. So the second step is to multiply. So 4 times 2 is 8. Now how do I move that 8 to the other side? I'm going to subtract 8 from both sides, and I get a 0. Oh, so this y-intercept is 0. So we can just write y equals 4x, or if you want to write y equals 4x plus 0, the y-intercept is 0. Now, another way we could have done that is by keeping this chart going, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Remember, whenever that x value is 0, and the pattern here is that we are subtracting 4 to get 12. Subtract 4 and we get 8. Subtract 4 and we get 4, and subtract 4 and we get 0. And we can see that we have that ordered pair, 0, 0. So we can write the equation of a line from a chart by finding slope using your two ordered pairs and then either plugging in to solve or by keeping your chart going. Okay, either way will work. All right, so they want to know, given the following chart, how much would 20 pounds cost? Well, I like to write an equation and then I like to fill in that equation with my number. Okay, so I'm going to find slope by taking two ordered pairs. So I'm going to do 12 minus 10 and 2 minus 1. 12 minus 10 is 2. 2 divided by 1, so I get my slope to be 2. Now I'm going to use this ordered pair. This is x, this is y. So in place of y, I'm going to put a 10. In place of x, I put a 1, and I'm finding my y-intercept. So I have 10 equals 2 plus b. So I'm going to subtract 2, and it looks like my y-intercept is 8. See, now that I have my equation, I can now substitute this 20 in place of x and just do my math. So I can do 2 times 20 plus 8. So 2 times 20 is 40 plus 8, and I would expect this to cost $48. So that's making a prediction. All right, the last problem. All right, so some of your questions are going to ask, is this linear or non-linear? Well, when you look at this, is this a nice straight line? So we would say that this is linear. Now, sometimes you end up with something that looks like that, and that's a little bit curvy. So we would say this is non-linear. All right, the last thing here is they want us to write an equation from a graph. So it's the same thing. Y equals blank x plus blank. So we're still counting and finding our slope, and I still need to find my y-intercept. So for me, the y-intercept is probably the easiest one to find. Where is this blue line crossing the y-axis? And remember, this one is your y-axis. So I'm going to keep going down, 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 down until it's crossing, which it is at that point. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I'm going down. So this y-intercept is a -5. Okay, now we need to find our slope. So remember, is it rise over run or run over rise? What goes on top? Okay, so we have to rise first. So I'm going to count from this dot up to the other one. This is where you make that unit triangle here. And now, how many do we rise? 1, 2, 3. So we're rising 3. Now it looks like I'm going to go left. So I'm going to go left how many? 1, 2. And because I went left, it is a -2. So remember, math people don't like putting that negative on the bottom. So we would write this slope as -3 over 2. So let's count. Does it do the same thing? 1, 2, 3 over 2. Okay, if you went this way, start at this dot, do we go down 3, which is what I have, a -3, and then over 2? All right, that should be a good review for your Mod 5 test that is coming up. Good luck on your assignment or on your test.